love you, Diego. You're
I
pretty.
like how
You're pretty awesome.
was to like hit it off with you and meet you, and then at the end you're like, oh yeah, so I might be moving.
I don't think it's gonna happen though. I just felt like I needed to like share that information that it's like on the table, but it's probably not going to be happening, you know. But I didn't want to like continue to hit it off, which I like figured we would, and then drop that in like later, you know, like in like a month.
Yeah.
But I think I'm gonna be staying. So I like doubt that the right opportunity in Bend will happen right now. I do still want to move there someday, but I don't think it's gonna happen right now. I do love it there.
That's similar. That's similar to me in Ashland. Like, I want to live there, but I know I'm not supposed to right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Ashland.
That's where you're from?
Kind of. Yeah. Yeah.
No, you're no.
Yeah.
You're good.
Like I go there alone and run in the trails in the mountains, and I feel at home in Ashland. Like by myself, I just could be there forever.
That's how I feel in Bend.
Yeah, right. That feeling. So, but the universe is like, no, you got duties here in Forest Grove.
I'm definitely asking the universe.
With Tree to Tree and all my different Hag Lake adventures and this podcast and these amazing people around me. So I'm just relaxing into it. Yeah, it's all about relaxing into it.
Wait, I asked, but I didn't hear the answer. Are you from Ashland?
I was born in Portland, but the first 6 years of my life, I lived in Ashland, and then I moved back there to go to college.
Your mom was there, right?
She lived in Talent, which is pretty much Ashland.
I
Yeah.
met your mom.
Yeah. I just did a podcast with her.
Really?
Yeah.
It was crazy after just knowing you for so long, and then you're like, wow.
How did you meet her? You just met, like...
She hired me to do some video work.
That's right.
Yeah.
Wait,
Oh my
on
gosh.
as, like a fluke? Like,
Oh my gosh.
No,
How,
he set us up.
yeah, how'd that go? I'm really
okay.
I'm really curious of your objective perception of my mom.
Oh, well, your mom, I have to think back because it was kind of a while ago, like 6 or 7 months. It ended up being like a very small project. She has a lot of like big ideas, and I think they're very exciting. She is not what I was expecting at all.
Really?
No.
Really? What were
After
you
knowing
expecting
her
and
so
what was
long.
different? I'm super curious.
I don't know. She's very sweet and
She is.
open, super open, which
She's super
did
open.
surprise me because you're like that. But
I don't think I am though. Isn't that weird?
really?
Yeah, I don't consider myself open. I think myself as a very introverted person.
Oh.
But anyway.
Say extroverted though. She said
Introverted?
open.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
You're an introvert?
Maybe we're redefining words.
A little bit, yeah, because she said open and you said introverted.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Well, I'm not.
Okay, so what do you mean by open? Like, here I am.
Yeah, and just like very passionate, which I guess shouldn't surprise me either. I don't know what I was expecting. I guess like I'm not surprised. She's got like a little bit of hippie in her.
She's got a lot of bit of hippie in
A
her.
lot of ideas, a lot of passion. I think that she's got very good ideas about how to teach young kids how to be more emotionally intelligent, which I think is important. And like, wow, what's that face?
This is so good for me to hear. That's that face. You have no idea.
I didn't know if it was like disagreement.
No, this is like, you're blowing my mind right now.
And I guess that shouldn't surprise me either, because you're very emotionally intelligent. She raised you.
This is what I call kindred gravity.
Yeah.
Like, kindred spirits gravitate towards each other whether we like it or not. And that's what's happening. So either accept it, just like the water flowing down a river, you can't stop the water. You can hold on, you can paddle upstream, but it's going to flow where it's going to flow. So you can relax into what's happening around you. And so I feel like all these people around me right now, and my mom, my dad, my family, this is kindred gravity. Like, and we might not like it, but that's what's happening. Like, you got to go through your family drama, like lessons to be learned, for sure. And our best teachers are our family. Our immediate family. Hotbed of spiritual growth, as my dad would say. Your immediate family teaches you the best things.
Well, they teach you a lot of things.
Yeah.
Definitely a lot of learning opportunities.
Whether you like it or not.
Whether you like it or not. That's why I ask, are they a gift?
if they're difficult people. I was not thinking of anyone in my family bronx.
Oh yeah, not at all.
No, but your
Well,
mom's
if they're not your family, they're easy to just. But if they're in your family, it's like, oh, I got a deal, and that's why it's a hotbed of spiritual growth, because you can't just you got to keep looking at it.
Yeah. It's hard.
It is, yeah. I mean, and it's, as Becca says, everybody's heart is different. So embrace your heart, however that is for you. And my problem is I compare. I'm like, oh, well, you suffer more than me, so like I'm not suffering. I should just deal. But like embracing my suffering and owning it, and then making boundaries with it, which you have taught me too. It's really hard to do.
Yeah.
and realizing, I forget what it's called when somebody's like, well, I'm experiencing this pain, but and suffering isn't like some people suffer more or less because everybody experiences suffering. So I forget what it's called when you're like, oh well, I had this really bad day, but like there's people who probably didn't even eat today, so I should just shut up. Like a psychological like shutting down or something. But it's not.
So it sounds like a coping mechanism,
maybe.
and not like. I mean, I've done that. Like, I've done it in a way where like it got in the way of my empowerment. And I think maybe that's the jam, is like we are all very powerful and we don't know it. And so we all have a place and purpose. And when you can own it, and you're not better than or less than, and you're owning your place and purpose, like a cell in the body, relaxing into what it is functioning within the interdependent universe, as opposed to a cell trying to be something it's not, which becomes cancer, right? So if I'm empowered in my relaxing into my place and purpose, and then I'm helping you out to recognize your place and purpose, things are better. And the ego, I think, wants to do this weird thing to pretend it's something it's not. Maybe. But the ego has a function too, so then you got to accept that. It's all part of it.
What's the ego's function?
To survive. Like, we all want to survive, right? And that's important to survive.
I don't know about that. Oh, hi.
Well, I mean, biologically, evolutionary speaking, and I'm not getting into, what's the common, the capitalistic survival of the fittest. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just talking about, like, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like, do I have my food, water, shelter? Cool. So if
Your ego regulates that?
I think at times, yeah. I think we're in it. I talked about this with my dad actually on Father's Day. I think we're in the ego phase of our evolutionary growth as a humanity, where it's not going to, like, we're going to transcend it. But in order to transcend it, we have to accept that it had its purpose, but it doesn't have a purpose anymore. So we're not denying it. We're just saying thank you for having your purpose. For our
Leftover.
Yeah, it served its purpose, but it's not needed anymore.
Now that we're civilized.
Well, you got to define civilized. Everybody defines that differently. I would say more aware of interconnectedness.
I guess what I mean is, like, are you trying to say that the ego is like a leftover from evolution that's not useful anymore?
Yeah, and I could be wrong, but I think that's what's
Well,
happening.
when did it stop being useful?
I think a while ago.
Yeah.
Like,
I
but
really don't
if, like, as a humanity, like, evolution is slow, right? Like,
Also, when did it start?
I don't know. I mean, that's where it gets deep. I don't know. I mean, I feel like almost ego is like this weird thing we can't measure, right? But I feel like it has it's a thing that's talked about, and it's this idea of separation, right? Like, I need to survive independent of you, and you're threatening my life. And so this is me and that's you, and now I feel safe because that's you and this is me. And I think that's okay for a while, but ultimately the interdependence is what is going to thrive.
Or maybe your ego is like the evil part of you.
Well, then that's where it gets even deeper. It's like, well, then what's evil?
Selfishness, greed, like all the things that make people want to take all the resources for themselves.
Yeah, because it wants to survive, right?
Yeah.
Right? But I think as we learn as humans, that doesn't work. If you just do you. It's like what we talked about, the me before we for the we. Like, I think we just have to give ourselves more grace and self-compassion as a humanity. Like, we're learning. We're
Careening towards the crash, but we're learning.
yeah, we're getting better. I know it might not look
Some
like
of
that
us
at the time, but I am optimistic. It's everything grows. I know. Maybe I'm talking too much, but I'm optimistic.
Well,
Maybe that's a
good.
privilege.
I don't want to take away your optimism.
I think it's I do think it is a privilege, and I think it's cool that you said that, and that doesn't invalidate it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's like both are good. Like to have that train of thought and to acknowledge that it's like, I think that's a good sweet spot to be.
I just love you guys.
I'm reading
I'm
this
just so
book.
happy we're all together. Like, that's all that matters.
It's fun that we're all together.
Yeah, no, like there's importance.
After so long.
There's importance with kindred gravity and proximity and just flowing and letting go and relaxing into where you're supposed to be and letting go of your finite self that thinks it knows everything and just relaxing into the infinite, and it'll take you to some pretty awesome places
Like here.
like here and last night. Like it's every day.
What happened last night?
I had a good night.
I was on,
Turn around.
I was
roasted.
yeah, do it. Do your needs and wants. I was on the coast with a random friend and her. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that on the farm. Like the earth is just wants to give us everything we want, and we just take it and we just take advantage.
Or we live in harmony with it.
Or yeah, that's the goal, right? But I think experiencing that it helps one just, and I think that's where the universe is going, or our planet is going. Like everyone's, oh, grow gardens, oh, right? Like they're just seeing.
Yeah, a lot of people are trying to start their own gardens, start their own chicken operation, like grow their own food. I think it's awesome. The hatcheries are like unprecedented, sold out for chicks because everybody's raising their own chicks this year.
Yeah.
And all the seed companies too that I normally buy from, they've been sold out all season. Sold out, like all of them across the board. I think that's great. I think bringing things as local as possible is the way to go. Because then there's accountability. If you're growing food on your own property, you're not going to spray it with toxic stuff because you have to deal with that problem. But if you're buying something that came from some other area and it's not the area breathing, you don't care as much. There's more accountability when things are local.
You are speaking so much truth right now.
This dog is smiling at
I can't. Do you see why I thought you guys knew each other?
I do. Yeah.
Maybe we did know each other in
This
another
make
life.
that's what I'm talking about. Kindred gravity. Like
Yeah.
there's just certain people you're like, oh yeah, you guys are
Yeah, that's
best
so-
friends. You just don't know it. This is awesome. Thank you. It's so good.
I'm reading this book called Sapiens.
Mhm.
Did I tell you about that?
I've heard of that book. Yeah.
It's good.
What's it about?
It's a brief history of humankind, and it's like starts with like the evolution into Homo sapiens, like as we are today. But it like starts with like way back when there were like multiple species of like humans. Like there were, in the way that there are like different breeds of dogs, there were different breeds of like humans. I keep thinking about it because I'm really excited about it. And then when we were talking about ego and like when did that show up?
Yeah.
That's what now that we've like had that conversation, I want to try to pay attention to that when I'm reading.
Oh
See
shoot,
if I,
that
like,
would be
notice
interesting.
That as it's talking about like the
Yeah.
social like status, like and how like survival.
Well, the ego, yeah, like it's Halloween, right? Like everyone's putting on a costume, right? Like, how is your costume going to survive this party? And that's basically what we do as humans every day, and we forget that this is a Halloween party. Like, so, but also, I mean, that's just like a big way of looking at it. But also, the ego has a place, and it helps you survive. It helps you navigate.
Yeah.
It's serving you.
Yeah.
It's not against you.
Yeah.
But it's also, if you don't see it that way, it's a problem.
Yeah.
When we associate ourselves with ego, that's where it gets dangerous. But when you see it as a friend helping you out, not you, then it's a cool thing, like a Halloween costume. Does that make sense? And
Things, yeah. But I'm more interested in do animals have egos? Because then, when did we start getting set apart from animals? Because they still have the will to survive and to take care of themselves and feed themselves.
That's the sort of thing that I was like that what you guys are talking right now is like keeps making me think of the book, because like in the book it's talking about how if you had like if we looked at Earth like at the beginning of like our species, we were just another animal. Like we just settled into like this animal society. Yeah, there's no, I don't even know a word to describe it, but just like a world where we were on the same playing field as like any other animal. And that's why I was like, when did the ego start, right? Like what, or like, I don't even know if that's the right way to phrase it. Like we're basing this conversation around ego, and so I'm wondering if there's a different way to frame it, but like what was that shift, you know?
Yeah. Maybe ego is not the right word.
it's a really good question.
And I don't know if it's ego, and I feel like we're focusing on that, but I don't know if that's what it is. And if that is, and if that's what we want to base this off of, that's great. And there's so much, you know, it's like it's such a complex thing.
It is, and it's super cool to unpack.
Are animals aware?
That's why I
of
feel like you
themselves?
like the book, because that's what it's talking about, like these things, and like language, and like the way humans think differently, and like it's the community element of it. Like all of those factors collectively are like kind of what are. And is that ego? I don't know how you're defining ego, but it's like a whole collective of
I would define ego as a survival mechanism, a survival costume.
That's so interesting.
Then animals have ego.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't feel like I've ever thought of it in that way, and I feel like I've heard you talking about it in that way.
I feel like in order to have ego, though, you have to be aware.
Yeah, I like that you guys are just circling this.
I know this is so. I love the energy here.
Very Tour de France. Tour de France.
Yeah, I mean that's interesting that you bring up the animals have ego, because then that implies that we're not animals.
Well, is there something that sets us apart from them?
The thumbs.
Maybe that's the ego, and maybe I know that's where it gets deep, right? Like abstract thought and I think what makes us different is that well, that's where it gets complicated.
Well,
I mean, with dolphins and orcas, we find a little bit of a kindred spirit with, and some animals, and maybe more. Maybe we're just not aware enough.
Yeah, you're saying with dolphins we found a kindred spirit?
Well, I think the difference is like
'Cause I've never
humans
felt kindred
significantly build stuff. Like you don't see like monkeys making forts and paddleboards and kayaks and cars and Tesla.
Building tools was a huge
Like we as humans have like significantly created that. I think that's the big difference is we've created so much.
Yeah, I always
complicated things.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Bees create and build, and they're very organized. Ants build, and they're
Yeah.
a really organized society.
For sure, yeah.
But it's building with tools is something. I mean, and some animals use tools, but do any animals use tools to build things?
I mean, yeah, our
I really think you need to read the book. Sorry, I didn't mean to take you off here.
no, you're fine. No, that's the problem. Is thinking anything's lost, or anything's. That's what I learned last night. Again, it's like it's fine. Everything's fine. Yeah, it's fine. All good. We're held in love. Like it's all good. Yeah, nothing's lost. It's all right here and now. And it's about being in a relationship and connection. What are you talking about? I signed up for this? What? That's before life stuff. That's
I
not.
know, she signed you up for it.
She had you.
Did you hear that? We said exactly the same thing at the same time. That was
Really?
so
You
funny.
said that?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you say
Yeah.
that.
That was weird.
You guys are blowing. You guys are blowing my mind right now. You guys are seriously tripping me out right now. I'm like,
That was
what?
funny.
She signed me up for this?
Yeah. That's why when you first said, she's like, you signed up for this. I'm like, no, we didn't ask for this life. Like,
Oh, well, you're speaking purely evolutionary.
no,
Yeah.
I'm saying like you came into this world by somebody else's choice and it was hers.
Yeah, but then her argument is like you're a soul beyond this physical dimension, and you're looking down on your parents, and you're like, I want those to be my parents, and I want this struggle, and that's where she's coming from.
I'm not a spiritual person.
Do you, boo? Anyway, Kate, I feel kindred gravity with you.
Thinking of it.
And I appreciate you big time.
Yeah, I appreciate you too. I miss working with you.
Well, I think that my tattoo on my finger is a wave.
Yeah.
And have we talked about this before?
No.
When I was going through some really hard times in my life. I love that saying, when the pain of staying the same
You should just like put your hand on like mentally or something.
is greater than change, then change will happen. I'm sure we've all experienced that. So when the pain of doing the same thing in said relationship or thought pattern, and I was like, oh, this is not beneficial. This is not a good thing. It was in a really intense phase of my life. It was like the perfect storm of like this is not good time. It's not good.
When was that?
2014.
Yeah.
I knew you then, didn't I?
Yeah, I may have hit it well. Testicular?
Really?
Well, that's what they thought. But it wasn't. I mean, that's a different story, but... Yeah, I guess I'll tell it now. 2% of males in the U.S. are false diagnosed with testicular cancer. But if you have testicular cancer, you have to remove it because it's the fastest spreading cancer. Like, you can't even... Yeah. But I was a 2% where it wasn't.
False positive.
They don't know what it is. But I went through that, so pretty much the same thing, kind of. Not to give
Not to minimize that experience.
Not
But
to-
you went through the stress of like leaving you.
and to minimize other people's experience with their cancer.
Yeah.
The point is, it was a hard year. It was a tough year.
Yeah.
So I drew the wave on a journal, and I just asked myself, like, calculated what have been the best times in my life, and what have been the worst. And above the wave, I like drew all the things or wrote all the things that were the best. And then below all the things that were the worst, I'm like, okay, what do these things have in common? And the best things, I realized, were given, not forced, just accepted and I'm in participation with. The best, like, adventures or relationships or people in my life that I'm not choosing, I'm just accepting. And then everything that was below the wave, I was trying to force out of, because there was societal pressures or fear, or I felt like I had to do it because so-and-so said I should do it. But when I just relaxed into accepting what was right in front of me, and I was able to embrace it, that expanded into the best things ever. But I had to have no judgment on those things. You know how we judge things like, oh, this is coming in my life. No, yes. But when I was just like, okay.
Open.
Yeah, let it. Flow with it.
That's the wave.
It's the wave. So I drew, got my only tattoo on my ring finger. So I'm committing to the wave, like the flow, like.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, at least that's what I'm learning is beneficial. If you're gonna say my religion, it's the wave.
And now the floodgates are open.
And I'm a little nervous. I feel a little out of control on like a class 4 rapid that I was not prepared for. But you know what? I'm learning to just embrace it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm just embracing it. Not trying to paddle back up river, just. And you know what's so funny about that? I have this new friend from the pandemic, and she's like a professional river guide. I told you this.
From the pandemic.
I know, right? Just people that like, I just listen to the waves. Like she just needed Zoom calls, and we have a relationship over Zoom calls. And she's like, "Oh, come out to Hood River. I'm gonna take you on the river." And I'm like, "No, I don't want to go on the river. I don't want to." I have enough stress in my life. And then I get there and there's like people in like life jackets and like helmets and dry suits. And I'm like, that's not what I'm gonna do. Within the next hour, I was all suited up. She took me down this crazy river.
Really?
Yeah. But guess what? It was the best thing ever.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't want to do it?
I didn't want to do it.
So why'd you say yes?
Riding the wave.
Riding the wave. That's what I'm talking about. Like, just accepting.
Say yes, man. Also, another thing, the clinician that I worked with, one of the clinicians that I worked with, like the mental health person that I worked with in California, which would be like similar to your role within team building, like you're the non-horse person, was very uncomfortable around horses and like was not like, she didn't have any horse knowledge before that, so you don't necessarily have to have that. She just really believed in the work. And then she did the model, and then you work with the horse people.
Yeah, because that's my first thought. How am I going to pay it off?
So,
But so like what
building program.
so like what Becca said. So it'll just enhance my team building world.
Yeah.
And also it's just leaning into the wave. You know what? Yeah, it's gonna happen. Yeah, it could happen.
Wow.
Yeah, I could do it. I'm just calculating a lot right now. Hold on.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it's worth it. It's worth it. I mean,
It's
are you
a
kidding me?
big
Like
deal.
we know each other. This is all a thing.
Honestly, it will blow your mind.
It's going to
I've wanted to do it for a while. So
Blown.
yeah, it's going to shift
Seriously.
so much for you.
It changed my life.
Yeah, same.
all right.
I mean,
Talk
it
about
really
it.
like guided me into like social work and like where I am today. Like I would not be in social work if I hadn't like pursued this model in the first place.
Okay.
And the training,
Hi, Diego. He just did an awesome picture. I was posing, and he probably didn't want me to. Kindred gravity.
these trainings.
The funny part is that neither of us can think of it.
These trainings talk about kindred
yeah,
gravity.
truly.
Like, oh my god.
Well, and you go through
They
the
are
forming, storming,
impactful.
norming within the training, and we talk
Yeah.
about that. It's very like, you know how you
I
always say
want
how
to do
you
it.
always say how
I will say.
transparent I am. Like I learned that within this. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
learned
Oh,
how
yeah.
to call out my
the
stuff.
training
within this
itself, it's
training.
fun.
Like,
it's exhausting.
I'm all about apostrophe S's, man. I love
Yeah.
it.
Clean language. That
Clean
blew
language
my mind.
has
And
guided
that-
my life. It's
Yes.
changed how I communicate with
Yes.
people, like completely.
100%.
Yeah.
I love
objectivity.
that this is happening right now. This is so
I
great.
love that like we're both egalitarians. Like,
Same.
what
Well,
is
it's this
ours?
weird like world and way of thinking that no one understands and like no one gets,
Yeah.
and I feel like it explains so much of like how I interact with people weirdly, you know. But it does.
Like,
Okay,
adding to
here,
the
here's what's happening for sure. I'm gonna do a podcast with your mom.
Good.
I'm gonna go through the training,
Yes.
and Becca's gonna facilitate it tree to tree.
Oh my god.
It's
Yes.
no, this is what's happening.
I haven't ever done team building.
I know, right?
Yeah,
It, it's
wild to
yeah,
me.
and we need you.
I'm
Yeah.
already doing
We need you.
You're already doing it.
Yeah, it's happening.
It's not even like
What's your team called?
Your mom.
Hey, leave my mom alone.
it's not even like you would need
My mom don't want to be
training.
in your team.
like soon.
How come you're so cool, Diego?
Yeah.
You just are. I see it.
Like I kind of want to sign up for that one now.
With shades.
If I get it.
You're like, hey, ma, my future's so bright, I gotta wear shades. You just came out with shades on. It's like I just pictured you as an infant, like coming out with.
I can look and double check, but
What's up? I just born cool. What do you want? What do you want?
perfect. And your host is our first time.
What's up, ma?
And the fact that I
No, you got that
know people there.
that
makes me
listening.
confident going into it. I've always been nervous about it just because
You are
you know what I mean. So
you're ahead of your time, man. You're ahead of your time. I could. You're ahead of everything, and you're annoyed.
People you know, but like people that
It's like, yeah, duh. Maybe. I don't know. That's just my vibe with you. It's like you see a lot. What's going on? You're a smart dude, man.
find a group, like a test group that come out.
You're a smart dude.
Team build.
Teamy buildy.
So Jason,
What?
the way I see